What a great honor to be here with you today. And I know the biggest things that you're concerned about is, oh my God, here we go with another chapel and another old boring guy. So I promise you, I won't be boring. I will promise that to you. But John, thank you for your kind words, and certainly thank you for this humbling invitation to come back to my alma mater, to all the administration here, teachers, leaders, those who are been so special in my life. Also to Gary Vandenberg and Steve Alinokoff, former teachers and coaches here who, in addition to Marv and Tina's, were so instrumental in who I am today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for helping mold my character, my skills. The Wyoming Seminary, thank you for helping me realize my dreams. Because it is without you, I don't have the character that I have today. Thank you for this invitation. And most importantly, thank you to the students of this great institution. You are truly blessed, as I was truly blessed, to be sitting on this campus, doing the work that you're doing, learning what you're doing. But you know what? We are midway through the second decade of the third millennium, and we again celebrate the life of a great man in Martin Luther King, and how his words and actions and his perseverance transformed a nation. But on this same day, across America today, we continue to face, and you see each and every day, and perhaps for the first times in your life, the struggles of race that we have in America. You see the frustrations that go on in our society. You see the turmoil that sometimes we struggle with, and you will struggle with too. The question I will probe with you today: how will you as young men and women continue the transformation of our society to one of a mutual human respect and dignity for all? How will you as a generation, and more importantly as individuals, discover the content of your character? How will you differentiate yourself to ensure that all men and women, black, white, red, green, whatever color, how all men and women find their impact zone, the place where they are able to use their God-given gifts to make a difference in life? That is the challenge for you today. The place where you will make the difference in the world, continuing the message of Dr. King. Someday I look to a nation where my children are judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. That someday, where all men and women, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your religious beliefs, no matter the color of your skin, no matter what it is, anytime, any place, we will all live in peace and harmony across this great world. That's why you are here today. That is what you're doing at this school. That is what you're learning in each and every day. How to take your rightful place to change the world, to make this a better place for you, for your children, and for your grandchildren in decades to come. We live in a society where, of course, we have differences. That's part of life. We're different. We're all different. But our great challenge in America is how we must learn to celebrate those differences rather than be afraid of them. We must learn not to be afraid of the color of a man's skin. We must learn to value the richness of a man or woman's heart. We must learn to search for the content of who they are inside. The very first time I realized I was black was in first grade, Miss Gleason's class. It was reading time. And we all sat in a little circle, and she sat in the front of the circle. And she passed out a booklet to each one of us. And she started to read. And the first words out of her mouth was, "This is the story of Little Black Sam." Little Black Sam Samba was a piece of literary history. Little Black Samba was a young black kid with what was known as kinky hair, large lips, brilliant red color or brilliant white color, and very coal black skin. And it was about his trials and tribulations in life. And as she read that book, I felt my head drop. I remember that. I may have been in first grade, but I remember that because I remember the giggles of all my other friends. And when we went to recess, the game that we played so often was tag, you're it, and you'd run. That day the game changed. It was tag, you're it, you're Little Black Samba. And everybody was trying to tag me and my other black friend, Willie, to be Little Black Samba. The last time I realized I was black was last week in New Orleans. I was down there doing a speech, and I was at a very, very fine hotel. And I bet you I was dressed in this same suit, because I kind of like this suit. I think I look good in this suit, you know. I had my red tie on, and I'm standing there, and I got my Notre Dame pin on, and I'm standing in the lobby waiting for the person who's going to host me. I'm standing in the lobby, and I'm standing there like this, you know, all professional, looking good, and everything like that. And this man came up to me, comes walking up. He's an older gentleman, distinguished. His suit probably cost $2,000, a lot more than mine. And he walked up to me and he said, "Excuse me, sir, can you direct me to the reception area and to the lounge? I have a meeting there." And I looked at him and I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Yes, where's the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da?" And I said, "Excuse me, sir, I don't work here. I'm an author and I'm a speaker. I'm here as a guest." He looked at me with shock. The color went out of his face. Actually, the color went in his face. Red. Color went in his face. Color was out of my face. But he looked at me, and red came to his face, and he said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I said, "Sir, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay." And I reached out my hand. I said, "Marv Russell." I said, "But you know what? I've been here a couple of days. I think the lounge is over there, but you might want to ask the reception desk. Great meeting you." And he shook my hand firmly and said, "Great meeting you too, sir." I was reminded I was black at that moment when he approached me. Because what did he think? He thought I was a security guard. Of course, any big black guy with a beard and standing there like this in the front lobby, it's going to be a black guy. That was the assumption. But in that moment, by saying the right words to him, by not being angry, by digging down deep into my character and saying to him and reaching out my hand and shaking his hand, I changed a little piece of the world. An assumption went away. And all of a sudden, I was judged by the content of my character. And I judged him by the content of his character, by virtue of how we engaged each other through that difficult moment. The meaning of Martin Luther King's words is more complex today than it was in 1963, because the unconscious signals have changed. 50 years ago, bigotry was widely spread throughout our world. Today, even though prejudice is widely denounced, and you don't always consciously see it, the unconscious biases of the world still exist. Today, Dr. King would ask people of all backgrounds, not just whites, to deepen their American and human patriotism. Deepening our patriotism by leaving our comfort zones and reaching across barriers. Learning about the differences in people, learning about the diverse cultures of America, and the richness of the cultures we come from. See, I would challenge you today to remember that we all have to stretch ourselves to build the ties that bind our democracy. The ties that bind us to a civil society rather than an uncivil society. The ties that are the source of our strength and the source of you as future leaders of this great nation. Now, my fellow Wyoming Seminary brothers and sisters, you've got to be prepared to lead in the future, because it's tough out there. It is so terribly tough out there. So be ready. The fact that we are all human beings means that we are far from perfect. Therefore, it is natural that we are far from achieving a perfect society. You and I are people. And people were molded by culture and shaped and raised. And that's who we are. Our culture serves to protect us. It formulates our habits, attitudes, and beliefs. It formulates the things in our mind. When people got off the boat at Ellis Island and came across, they gravitated to their own culture because there was safety there. There was safety in numbers. People understood me. They understood my language. They understood my accent. That's why culture is strong. And it's needed. But the great challenge. When my culture, when what's in my mind, when my ideas and my ways of thinking are so fixed, I can't see the differences. I can't see life outside where I am. I call that, and by the way, okay, so any English teachers here, I'm going to give a little English lesson. I call that the great scotoma. Scotoma. S-C-O-T-O-M-A. Anybody ever hear that word before? Very few people do. I kind of like it saying it. Nobody ever hears it. The great scotoma. A scotoma is a blind spot. It's kind of like a cataract. If you've ever had a grandparent, maybe who've had cataract surgeries, it means they had a film over their eyes and they can't see. That's what happens in culture. We get a scotoma. It's a blind spot, and it's tough to remove that blind spot. It takes strength to remove that blind spot. And so what I ask you today is always search for your ability to remove your blind spots. In 1960, John F. Kennedy, 35th president, challenged Americans. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. Martin Luther King responded to that call to action. What can I do for my country, he thought? What can I do for my society, he thought? What can I do to lead us to a better place, he thought? I will lead a call to judge your fellow man and women by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. He declared to all Americans that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward every goal of justice and peace requires sacrifice, requires suffering, and it's a struggle, and it's tireless exertion, passion of concern, dedicated individuals professing the content of their character. That's what life is going to be about. That is what our lives have to be about. You are being prepared. Right here in this institution, you're being prepared to take your role in society. You're being prepared at this great institution to make decisions that will influence the world. You are being prepared as future leaders of a great world. I've written quite a bit in my books, in other places, and I've said that you must become innovative entrepreneurs of leadership. You, in your mind, must be an entrepreneur of what your leadership is going to be, where you challenge your embedded assumptions, where you push yourself to higher standard of commitment. What I've written represents the lessons of my experience. I'm not a person who minces words. I kind of say what I think, and I say it with a great, big, fat mouth, as you can see. I want you to examine and demand of yourself a personal and professional accountability for who you are and what you want to be. I want you to find your roadmap. I want you to find your individual behavior and translate that behavior into what I call being essential, exceptional, and ethical in everything you do. I have learned and taught others that throughout our careers we need to understand that successful performance is a result of our ability to manage change and impact the world. Therefore, when I talk about essential, exceptional, and ethical leadership, when I talk about these things, I speak of them from the heart because I want us to be different. I want us to find a new place. You know what? I learned a lot here. I arrived at Wyoming Seminary as a result of one of my greatest failures in life. One of the greatest embarrassments that I've ever had in life. Being offered a scholarship to play football at the University of Notre Dame, and then having had that scholarship rescinded because I was not a good student. Somehow, some way, I found myself on this campus. Somehow, some way, after a hard working year and these great teachers here, I found my way to improve my college board scores by 175 points, and I found my way to having very good grades and learning how to study and learning how to deal with life. Notre Dame came back, and I found myself living my dream. A dream that I never thought would ever be possible. But you know what? You see, leadership that I speak about, and these things that I speak about, is the ability to positively influence the world around us. And it's only thanks to this school that I've figured out that way. This place is one of the key sources of the character of my content, the character of my heart, where I want to be, where I need to be in the future. You know, I went to Notre Dame, and it was great. And people asked, how long did you play football? And I said, oh, my whole life. And my wife quickly reminds me, no, you didn't play football your whole life. You played football for 10 years, okay? You're, you know, seems a little bigger than you. Yes, you got a national championship ring. I wear my fist, wear it everywhere I go. Yes, you did. And then people always ask me, do you know Rudy? How many of you know Rudy? Ever heard of Rudy? You've heard of Rudy? Did I know Rudy? Yes, I knew Rudy. Rudy was on the team when I was here. Did I know Joe Montana? Yes, Joe Montana was on the team. But you know what was the most important thing? My response to them is that it was the greatest experience of my life. And it was due to this place. And what was great about that experience is that it gave me another new foundation. It also gave me an opportunity to travel to some great places and play in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And the result of it is I've had 21 knee surgeries, including 6 knee replacements. But you know what? If I had to start it all over again, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. My first stop would be at Wyoming Seminary. So as I finish up this morning, folks, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you about who you're going to be. I want to challenge you to several important questions. And if you agree with me, I'd like you to tell me that we are. If you agree with me, I'd like you to dig down deep into your soul and tell me we are. If you agree with me, I want you to scream it to the rooftops, because we make a difference here. Are we the future of America? Are we? Yeah. We are. Are we the future of America? Yeah. Can you make a difference out there in the world today? Can you? Yes. Are you going to challenge yourself to dig down deep? Are you going to challenge yourself to make a difference across the world that you touch? Are you going to challenge yourself to be the best that you can be? Are you going to challenge yourself to reach to the content of your character? Are you going to do that for me? Yes. You better. You know what? Each day you're molding and shaping your character. Each day you're learning to transform our society. Each day you're learning who you want to be. Each day you're learning what you need to be. So, okay, my friends, I'm almost through. I got a couple more things to say for you and you and you. This is the words of Martin Luther King. Listen to what he said. If you can't fly, then you gotta run. If you can't run, then you gotta walk. If you can't walk, then you gotta crawl. But whatever you do, you gotta keep on moving. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politically correct nor popular. But he takes this stance because his conscience tells him it is right to do in life. If you're a street sweeper, then you're a street sweeper. He sweeps the streets each night like Michelangelo painted, or like Beethoven composed music, or like Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep the streets so that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause and say, he lived as a great street sweeper, and he did his job well. He also said, hatred paralyzes life. Life releases it. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates beauty. It is my joy. It is my strength. It is my secret cup of gladness. This institution represents all that is good in education, and each of you are blessed to be here. And I sincerely ask you these final words. Find your potential in all that you do. Find your impact zone. And most important, discover the content of your character.